to the computer. Okay, I'm going to let people in, and here we go. I'm pinning the wrong page. Hello, everyone. I just wanted to welcome everybody to today's drawing class. We're going to be doing a project by Daigo Rivera. He's a famous Mexican painter. He did all kinds of different paintings. We're going to be doing a landscape today, and I've got it here. And I'm going to be going through some different things, but we're just going to wait a minute or two to get more people. A couple of housekeeping things. What we're going to ask everybody to do is mute their microphones so that everybody is muted and that it doesn't disrupt the class as we're going. And because all those little noises make it hard for people to concentrate and see what's happening sometimes when they hear that. Now I've got my mouse here. I'm going to be doing a couple of things. I'm going to join in here with on my other screen so you guys can actually see me. I'm switching to webcam. Okay, there we go. There I am. Good morning. And then I'm going to be switching back to my camera so that you can see what I'm doing. Hopefully I will not have any mishaps. I lost my camera the other day and it fell down, but I think I've got some extra tape up here on it, so I think it's going to be fine. So we'll hopefully have that. We're just going to wait a minute here to see if we have any other people that are going to be joining. Again, I think what we're going to be doing today, you're going to be needing a pencil, eraser, and paper. Now, if you have watercolor paper, I would grab watercolor paper because this is, I've got my pencil, I've got my F sketching pencil, my dirty pink pearl eraser. Now, I'm going to be using a different pencil so people can see. I'm going to be using a dark pencil, one of these two dark pencils, so people can see what I'm doing. But if I was doing this, when I did this original drawing that we were looking at, I did it with an F pencil. Okay, I did it, I sketched it out. Now, what we'll see as we do this, guys, is that this project that we're going to be working on by Daigo Rivera, we're going to sketch it out first. And I'm not sure if we're going to have time to watercolor it or not. If we do, we'll start it. But the watercolor process alone for me took a good hour just to watercolor the project, because it's a layered project. But I think that with this, at least we're going to see how he created these villages and these shapes, and we're going to be working on line, shape, color. We're going to do a little bit of perspective today too. So it's going to be kind of a fun kind of project. So now that it's a little bit after 10, I'm going to start by talking a little bit about the artist. Now, first of all, everybody's got their materials together, which is pencil, eraser, and maybe some watercolor if you need it. But I'm just going to switch over to my other camera to show you the project again. Thank you, I am recording. Someone was reminding me, because I told her to remind me to record. This is the project. I'm going to show it to you a little bit closer up. So one of the things I tell people to do is pin the video on me so that you can kind of see what's happening as I'm going to emit a person here. And this is on my sketchbook that I did this project of a Daigo Rivera landscape. Okay, so this is what we're going to be working on today, and I'm going to move it over there. But I'm going to talk a little bit about Daigo Rivera. So I'm going to share the screen and show you some slides of Daigo Rivera if I can do it. I practiced, so we'll see if I can do it again and see if it's, because it always seems to disappear when I am looking for the right screen. There it is, I found it. Okay, so I'm going to, there we go. This is Daigo Rivera. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Daigo Rivera. And he's with somebody here that's another famous artist. And she was his wife. And we've done In fact, was it the last lesson we did maybe? Was a cat by a person named,
Lesson before last.
thank you, Frida Kahlo. So we have Diego Rivera was married to Frida Kahlo. So I'm going to go on to our next slide. There's another picture of Diego and Frida. They were kind of the main, I'm going to admit another person as they're waiting, person. So this is a picture of Diego and Frida, and they were married, a very tumultuous marriage, but Diego was quite the character. And like any other artist, he was friends with Pablo Picasso. Here's a self-portrait he did. Diego Rivera was born in 1886, and he died in 1957. Okay. And here's another, these are more of the typical Diego Rivera paintings that he would do. He did a number of ones where you can really see the shape and the color, and it's almost, once you see the color and some of the shapes of these overgrown plants and flowers, you know it's kind of a Diego Rivera painting. This is one of his more famous cactus paintings. And like Frida Kahlo, he was also a surrealist. And what I mean by a surrealist is that it was almost like they painted their dreams. They had these, they gave life to inanimate objects, like a cactus. These look like arms. They're like waving. It's pretty interesting painting. This is one of the more famous Diego Rivera paintings. Here's a landscape drawing that he did, and this was early on in his career, but he studied in the Cubist style, and you can kind of see the angular shapes that he used in his paintings. And here we can kind of see that there's a definite foreground here, there's a middle ground, and then we have the background way in the back, the mountains, as you can kind of see back there. So then we're going to another one. And this is more one of those landscapes that we talk about that's more like a surrealist. He was influenced by, like I said, Pablo Picasso, but also Salvador Dali. Now, if someone looks at this painting and did not know who it was by, they'd probably say that this was a Salvador Dali painting because of the colors, the intense colors, the imagery, the surrealistic imagery, the dreamlike imagery, and the technical aspect. It's very technically amazing that his work was. Now, here's another, early on, this was a sunset that Diego Rivera did. Very pretty, very, could have been done by anybody, but you can kind of see this is from the Mexican Caribbean. And here's another landscape from the central part of Mexico that he did, where he would do mountains with the snow and indigenous people. And he was very much, not just an artist, but he was very much involved in politics and social justice, just like Frida was. And this is the painting we're doing today. I simplified this landscape so that we could kind of go through it step by step. It's going to be a fun project, but there's a couple of things I want to point out. Is how he used these shapes, these curved shapes. He repeats these shapes. You're seeing it again and again like that. Now you even see these shapes up here in the sky. And the triangles, not only they're here, but they're up here. All these things make a painting very, very successful when you see these things. You see these repeating shapes. There's another triangle there. So when you're looking at things and seeing a painting, there's some paintings that you say, well, it just looks so good. Why? If you go delve deeper into it, you can see all these little things that make these paintings so successful. Every time I look at this landscape, I see new things. I see how, oh, he's hidden a little house back here. Oh, he's got some little people down below. So there's lots of things that you can add to your landscape as you're doing it. One of the key things about this painting is, again, we have a foreground. This building is bigger because it's farther, closer to our eye. These are smaller because they're farther away. These mountains are smaller again because they're farther away, and the sky is lighter, so it recedes farther in the background. So that is our, and we're going to go back. So that is the project we're working on today. Sounds like fun, doesn't it? Okay, great. So what I'm going to do, again, housekeeping, guys, I want everybody to kind of stay muted while we're working on the project. If you have a question, you can ask me. Again, we need pencil. For those who just arrived, we need pencil and eraser for this project to start with. And I'm just going to be kind of going through this step by step, kind of showing you how I would look at this to create this drawing. So what I'm going to be doing first is I'm going to create kind of a border, just so I have, I'm not going to go to the very edge of my paper. I'm just drawing this square so you can kind of see it. You don't have to do this, guys, but this is just, as you can see, even when I'm doing my drawings, I always try to make kind of a frame for it. It helps me kind of have the edges. And today's date is 9/29/20, and my name is Larry. You put down your name. So name and date. And what we kind of want to start with is I'm going to be starting with some of the shapes that are down below, and I'm going to work my way up. So now you could do this two different ways. You could start from the back and work your way forward, but then you might run out of room for the up front. So what I want to do is I see that there's an area right here, and I'm going to kind of use my left hand so you can kind of see that, is this right here. So I'm going to start with this kind of curved line here and just bring it, and it comes right off to the edge there. So I start with just kind of this curved line. Now what I'm going to be doing is you should draw lightly. I'm just going to repeat this. I'm drawing a little bit heavier so that you guys can see my lines. Now the next line I want to do is this line right here. It comes like this, and it comes down to the bottom of my page. So I'm going to come over here as I'm looking at this. I'm going to come down to the bottom of my page. Okay? And then, as you can see, the line kind of comes from right here, and it comes back up. Okay, so I'm trying to draw a little bit on the light side because it's going to help me from erasing a lot. So we have this shape. I'm just going to kind of make sure I'm not going too fast. So I come down here with a line like this, and I come over the line that comes down, and then because this ends up going in, this road comes into here, it gets that little bit of perspective that we were talking about, is I'm going to come down and make this kind of shape like this. And it's just kind of, it's like a roller coaster. So we come over here, and we're going to come up. We're going to come down, and we end up over there. So you get kind of an idea that this is we're working on our foreground. As we're working on this project, we're going to work our way back. And so you kind of want to make sure that I'm going to make sure that I have my mountain, which is back here, like right there. So I know that I want to make sure I don't get too high so I have room for a mountain and still some sky up there. So keep making sure that you're focused on having enough space for the whole landscape. Okay, so I want to just make sure everybody has got the first parts of this project down. We go down, we have that kind of roller coaster. Now, one of the things you can see right here is this is kind of part of this wall. So what we want to do is make this, so I start right about here. I've got my little dot there, and I'm going to come and I'm going to follow this closer in, and then I'm going to make it larger, come down and out like that. Okay. Now, right now it looks like it could be a river or something, but to make it more like it is a wall, which I believe it is, is I'm going to come down here and I kind of create this, I'm just going to lightly skip so you can see it, creating this wall here. Okay, so far we should have just that little bit of the foreground ready. Now what we'll do is we're going to do all the main lines of the landscape. Then we're going to come back and we'll add the details. So I'm not going to be adding the houses yet or the trees. I want to kind of get the shapes and making sure everything is kind of in place. Then you can come back and do details. And then I find that a lot easier. So as an example, if I would draw a house over here and I said, oh, wait, it's in the wrong spot, I'd have to erase the house, the tree, everything like that. So what you want to do is you want to sketch out the whole thing lightly, and then we come back and start adding the details. So then what we would be doing is we'll sketch out from front to back, and then we'll come in and we'll start adding the detail from the front to the back again. So it's front to back, front to back. So then I'm going to come over here and I see this line that has this, as I can point on this here, I'll do it with my left hand so you can kind of see. This is the line that I'm going to come and I see that it comes to this wall here. So that's the line I'm going to follow. So I see that it's up here. I see that it comes down. And I see that it continues over there. Okay, so I'm drawing it kind of softly, but I think everybody can see my lines here, right? Then what I want to do is I see another line right here. That's
Can
this
you
one
go
right
a little
here.
slower?
I could go a little slower. So you're just getting these first couple lines. That one comes down and I stopped it, you see. Then I come down and I follow this one that kind of comes to that point in the wall. Again, draw softly. Now you don't have to have these lines exactly the way I have them or Diego had them. And this next one comes over like this. It follows it, it comes up and then it comes down here. What we're doing is we're kind of creating these layers of this landscape. So this one comes and you can see this is about halfway right there. So you can see most these lines that I'm working on right here are not even halfway. Now I haven't done anything on this side, and the reason why is I need this line that I'm going to work on next. This one right here is going to come up and come down like this. So it's going to kind of connect to this line here. That one gives us our connecting line then to come over and create some of the other things that were going on. So what I'm going to do here is I'm starting down here and I'm coming up. I have to see how I am coming up. So I'm going to erase a little bit here. So you're just kind of following. This is going to come up. And then it's going to come down. Okay. So I'm just kind of, I'm following this line that was here. So you're going to come up. You don't have to, like I said, this is just kind of, we want to create these kinds of valleys and texture here. So we don't necessarily need them to be exactly the same, but we want to have these kinds of similar. So then from right there, I can see that this line should match up. See this right here? I look at this line right here, and I see that it kind of is the same spot. So that's where I'm going to start it. I use my pencil here, come straight across, I make a dot right there. And that's one of those tricks that I've talked about in lots of things, is using your pencil to figure out where things are in a painting, whether or not they're up and down, whether they're straight, if they have an angle. So then from here, this line is going to come, and it's just going to kind of come meandering along. We're going to have some trees go over that, but we want to kind of get this line going there. So I'm just going to kind of go over this again. I came up, I kind of come up to kind of a little bit of a peak, not much. And I come all the way down to our wall with that. That line sets up where we're going to come on the other side of our landscape. I set that up by looking here, saying that it was straight across, make my dot, and I come across there. Now, I'm looking that I can kind of stick to where I was over here by coming and making a line somewhere over in this area here. It's more up here, it looks like. I'm looking at this line here, coming over here, and I'm going to start with this. Yeah, just kind of another triangle back there. I was right, and I see this line here, so I make a dot here. I should have done that. Should have followed my instinct. So this one, I see that it goes here, and it's going to end up here. I look at my pencil, and I can see that it should be about the same height as that. It should be right about there. Okay, so then what I do is I'm just going to kind of follow. These are not sharp mountains, are they? They're just kind of these soft kind of peaks here. And this one kind of comes down, and then it ends up going up. Now, when an artist has ability when they're working on a landscape like this, this line might have come all the way down like this, and the artist says, well, that's not right visually. It doesn't work. My eye kind of goes off the page that way. So as artists, we can change things so they're right visually for our eyes. So we have that. Now we're going to come back over here, and we can see that there's this dot there, so I'm just going right there. And I'm going to create, this is kind of another rounded shape here, as I'm coming over to that point that I had there. I can see that there's a line. See, we have these lines here. So this one, I can see that it comes into this valley here. Now, as we're looking at this, we can kind of see now that we have all the lines. We have our foreground. We've got a middle ground in here. And we've got this background, and then we're going to have a sky back there. So the middle ground could be all this area here, but I kind of see this as being part of the background in the sky. I just want to give everybody a chance. I'm going to kind of look at how everybody is doing here. Check to see how we are. I'm going to look at everybody. Oh yeah, that looks good, Pippa. Very nice. Yes. I see, Evelyn, you're starting with the trees. That's okay. Yeah. Very good, Ingrid. Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. Okay. You guys are good. This is awesome. Okay, I'm going to go back and I'm going to start again. I'll move my trusty mouse out of the way here. And what I'm going to be doing is starting with things over here. And I'm going to start with this house right here. So what we're going to want to do, guys, I'm going to use my F pencil. I might switch to a different, I'll find a pencil that's nice and sharp so you guys can see it. But what I want to do is the lines now for our houses, even though they're on hills and things like that, the houses are built straight up and down. So when you do your house, you want that line to be straight. So you want to have that pencil looking straight up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here, and that's not going to be able to be seen. I can see that now, so I'm going to use a different pencil. That one is that. So I'm going to start by doing now, Diego Rivera, his houses are not done to like 1-point perspective or 2-point perspective. He's kind of done these a little bit more primitively, where we're going to be using some lines, but they're not all consistent. So you can kind of have some fun with these in a way, but we want to keep some things he did very consistently is all the lines are straight up and down for the houses. So let's do that. So this next one is going to be straight up and down. And it's going to be a little bit higher, as you can see. I connect them. Oops. I pressed too hard. I got to sharpen my pencil. Sorry. So then we have another line, and this one is going to be from right here to right there. I'm going straight up and down again. And then I come across, I have to look at this, it comes straight across. Like that. Now, the roof comes up kind of at this angle, like that. So it's kind of a funny looking roof there. I think I can come up. We're just gonna leave it. I was gonna try.
What's that F for?
For Frank. No, it's not an F. We're not using that. So now we want to add some windows to our house. So this angle is the angle I'm going to do the window at. So I make two little lines, same angle as the side, but these lines come straight up and down. So these are straight up and down. I'm going to do the same thing for the front window or the side door. So this comes straight up and down and use the same angle as the roof, like that. So these lines have to be straight up and down. Now I can see that there's a little hill behind this house, so I'm going to add this hill. And I saw Evelyn already had like a cute little tree up there. I'm going to do a tree too. So I start with just the trunk, and then I'm doing my famous C trees. So I just use the letter C. Diego Rivera used these C trees too. This is just a skinny tree. And you can see I'm coming over that line. We can erase if we want, but you don't have to. Now, there's some bigger trees right next to the house. Let's do those too. Just going to give everybody a chance to kind of catch up here. So we're going to do 2 trees. I do the trunks first. This tree right here is farther forward, so I'm going to do that one first. So I come over here. Again, I'm doing my C's. And I can see that this tree, I maybe made this one too big, but this one should have come up. And that's one of the things that's fun, is that every time you do a drawing, it doesn't have to always be the same. Now I'm coming behind the roof there, so you can see that the tree is behind. The other tree is going to be smaller. Comes back there. So we have our house and 2 trees. I'm going to sharpen my pencil again because I can feel that it's already getting dull. And then I'm going to come and I'm going to start working on some of my houses that are over here now. So we're going to do the houses first. So these first 2 houses are bigger. These 2 are bigger, and then there's these smaller ones because they're farther away. And then we'll come back and we'll do these ones that are in this little valley there next, after that. So we can see that this line right here is where this curve kind of comes down. So I know that that's where I start my vertical line. And you can see again, I'm going to move my other pencils. This line is straight up and down. You want those lines. Your lines, when you start doing houses like this, they're going to start moving like this or like that. You want them to be straight up and down. So once you draw it, get your pencil and make sure it's straight up and down. Your eye is going to try to trick you. Okay, and then I'm looking at this and I come over and I see that this next one should be right about here. So it's coming, I want to make sure it's straight up and down. Yep. It's a little bit taller. And then I'm going to be doing this angle. Then I'm going to come with an angle like this, angle like that. I'm going to use the same angle like that. So I come over like there. I come down. I come down off the page. Okay, so we got our little house here. Now, you can feel free. He had most of these had, you might have a window or 2. And I think this one's being straight up and down, so I can go like this and make just a little window right there. And I'm going to make a window here, but this one's going to be at an angle because I have to do the angle there. Now, there's a house right behind it that's almost attached. And a lot of times in these villages like this, they would be attached or built right next to each other. So this one comes up. And I have to come straight up and down. Now this one is behind it, so it comes like this. So the angle is going to be the same like that. And the roof comes up, but this line comes into there. And we can have a little door or something in that one. So we should all, as I was showing you, we're creating these little villages here in this landscape. Now, when we're all done with the trees and the houses, if you want to add people or animals, feel free to do that. I'm going to add a couple of trees right next to this area here. I see one in particular. So I want to do this tree. And the reason I'm doing the tree now, it's this tree right here, is that it may cover up houses that are behind it. So we want to make sure, as I'm doing, I come up with these two little lines for the trunk of the tree. It comes underneath here. And then I'm going to come and making this tree. And looks like maybe I'll have to add another one here. It looked kind of lonely, didn't it? So I'm going to just kind of add a little tree there. Now, we have this kind of road that comes over, and then there's going to be a house, looks like right about here. So let's go ahead and start with a line that's kind of just straight across like this. So I come over here with a little line. It's coming right off of this, and I'm going to come up. It's got to be pretty small because it's farther back. So we want to kind of create this. So I'm doing a full little box there. But then what I want to do is I want to come over add my little lines, straight up and down, and then I'm going to add a roof. So what I did is I came up, this angle and this angle the same, little triangle, come across, come down. And we can see that there's a house a little bit farther back. So it's not kind of attached, so I come over here. I'm gonna have to sharpen my pencil again. This one seems to be a little bit bigger. And I do my triangle again. So what's happening when we're doing this is that we're repeating shapes again. We have these, when we did the landscape part of it, we had this beautiful, someone needs to get, oh, okay. I'm not good multitasking. Luckily, I have a trusty assistant here who saw that we needed to get back in. Thank you, Lindsay. So then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add this roof part of it here, just a little bit. Two little lines. It comes straight down. Create a nice little house like that. So we're repeating a number of these things, and what happens is maybe what shape is coming around makes a difference, so that we have that coming through there. So we want to make sure that we have this all kind of going through, and then I can see that there's a tree right next to this one here. I'm again doing my C tree. And I think there's a few more houses. Well, I can't tell from my watercolor that we're right here. So I'm going to add one more from over here, coming up. As you can see, my lines are straight up and down. This one is parallel. Going back. Just to get kind of, and they're behind this line here, which is this kind of walled shape here. How's everybody doing with all these? It looks like everybody's working away. Now you can always feel free. I'm going to add another tree up here. a little bit smaller tree. And then what I'm going to be doing next is I'm going to work on the center section here where we got some trees, these little houses, and then we're going to start looking at some of the shapes of our backgrounds for our rest of our landscape, of where some of these areas that you'll use watercolor, colored pencil to finish this out. So what I'm going to do next here is I'm going to work, before I do the houses, I'm going to do this tree right here, because this seems to be a tree that's right on the other side of this. So I'm going to come over, making this line a little bit more dark now. And I see that this tree is right above here. So I'm going to make this tree like that. Again, I start with the trunk, two lines for the trunk. And then create my tree. I'm going to create another tree behind here. Making the trunk farther back. Now, odd trees, sometimes odd numbers are good, so I'm going to make another one back there. So I got my three little trees over here. Now as I'm looking at this, I'm going to come over and I'm going to do my house first. My house, I can see this one comes like this, so I come over here. I'm just going to sharpen my pencil. So what I want to do is this little one, and it's, again, the thing to remember, as things get farther away in a picture, they become smaller. So this house, even though it's near the viewer's eye, is in this little valley. And to give that illusion that it's farther away, we want to make them smaller. So what we do is we're going to start by doing a line like this, coming straight across, little line. So we're coming up. Come across. I'm going to go up with two lines on these angles. Can you see that? Clear. I come across. And then I'm coming at this angle here. Up. Create my little house there. Everybody see how I did that? Using angle, it's about the width of a pencil. Again, we have the triangle. We're repeating these shapes. We're repeating those shapes of those rectangles. Now, this other one comes right behind it, so I'm going to just do the same thing. It's kind of at an angle, so this time I'm going to come, it's like an outbuilding or something. Maybe this is a farm and this is the barn down here. So I'm coming at this little bit of an angle. Look at my pencil, you can see that angle. I'm coming up, straight up. It's higher than the roof. And it's got kind of a rounded roof top, so I kind of come, looks like a piece of bread there almost. And then I'm just going to come back at this angle. You can see I'm using this angle like this. I'm coming back on either side. I'm going to get rid of this line right here, but that was just to help me because this roof kind of hangs over. And this comes down and it's shorter because it's farther away. So we've got this kind of two buildings there. This can have kind of a big door. This one can have a little window, a door. So you kind of create your environment there. And you can see that they have three trees. So we're going to repeat. We have 3 trees up here. We're going to have 3 little trees down here. So I'm going to come over here and one right by it. Do my tree. These trees have to be kind of small because they have to be in scale. It's like scale and proportion. The tree has to be about the same size in relationship to the house. Now there's some other trees behind here that we're just going to go, we don't see the trunk, so we're just kind of creating these kind of trees back there. So I use that C tree back there to create those trees. So we have kind of this shapes that are creating. We have our little farmhouse and barn there, and now we want to add some trees that are a little bit closer to us, so they're going to be a little bit bigger. I'm going to sharpen my pencil again. And I'm going to start with the trunk of the tree. I want to start with the one that is closest to the viewer. So I start with this one. I'm going to come up. I have another one right there. I come up. I have another one right here. So there we have my trees. You can add a few if you want, maybe one even behind, like that. So now we can see where these lines kind of come in. I'm going to add some trees down here. Kind of a little patch of trees there. So we have kind of these areas where our landscape, and we know now where our lines are. So we have our trees kind of creating our whole foreground and middle ground with our trees. Most of our trees are in the foreground. A few of them are in the middle ground, but the hills around here are what we want to see. So when we're looking at things here, this area right here that you're looking at is more of a cliff. So what we want to kind of do is kind of bringing, I'm just going to kind of show you how I'm going to be doing it, is I'm going to be kind of bringing my pencil making it a little bit sharper here. One of the things that he does is that he creates, even with these, just kind of this shapes, so that you can kind of see that this, now you could imagine maybe some goats or sheep up in this, because this is kind of flat, but this is coming down, coming into this area here. Now, I did it with lines here with the watercolor. I'm doing it here with pencil lines, because I can see, even though I have my water and my paints ready, we're not going to have enough time to do this as a watercolor. So I'm going to get into more some of the details before we have to do that, so that you see where some of these hills come in. So like with this one, this is more of a softer hill that's coming over here. So I'm going to kind of adjust these. Now with this one, I can see this, it's got kind of this point where you want to come down and you're creating kind of a crevice in this And then this one here also, there's one. Now, when you're coloring this in, you can do it with color. If you want to keep it as a pencil drawing, you can just continue with pencil. So these are some of those key things. Now, one of the things, if you notice his background.
Can you look at mine?
Hang on one second, I will. I just want to point something out too, is that he repeats the shapes of these mountains into the shapes of the clouds. So that they're not fighting each other, they're reinforcing each other. Here, I'm going to take a quick peek at what everybody's doing. Okay. Pippa. That looks great. Evelyn, can I see yours? Oh, wow.
I did a house and a barn on the top of the cliff, and I added a paddock with a cow.
I like that.
Or a horse. I'm not sure if
Now,
it's a cow or a horse
one of the
yet.
things that we want to remember too is scale. That looks really great. The Rogers there. That looks great. Yes. What you want to remember, if you're doing a cow, and I'm going to show you what I mean up here, I'm going to go back to this. If I'm doing a cow way up here, my cow is going to have to be tiny because he is way up on the top, away from it. So these cows, you might see maybe they're sheep because they're up that high. But there's a group of sheep. Now, if they're down here, they're going to be bigger. You're going to end up with bigger cows. You know, the shapes are going to be bigger. If they're over here, they're going to be even bigger because it's closer. So if you had a cow, you're looking over here, you probably see these ears and this shape. The cow would be big in this area here. So you always want to look at where it is based on where it is in the picture, what the size, because it's size, it's scale and proportion. That's really important when we're doing these projects like this. So things like if we had hikers up here, they'd be little dots. We couldn't see them. They'd be too far. Now, if they're up here, person up here, we'd be able to see a person up here. He'd be up coming, and we could see that their person would be, you know, they might be walking, and they might have a dog. But I mean, here you can see, so that's the shape. You know, you have this ability to, you're doing it based off of scale and proportion, that you have to have the scale to measure where it is. Now, the same person walking a dog down here would be tiny, really tiny. You'd barely be able to see it because they're farther away in the picture. That creates the whole illusion of what we're trying to get at. So when you're doing the sky, you want to keep some, I'm going to draw some shapes here just so you can kind of see, lightly shade in that there's this shape, and it's the same shape as the mountain. So you're seeing that these are clouds that Daigo Rivera had added in here. But these clouds are in the shape of these mountains. And they overlap just like they did. You can get kind of the feeling, you're doing them with different colors, but it repeats what's happening down below. Now, for me, what I would be doing next steps was that I would start when I'm taking my paintbrush, and I'd work from back of the painting to the front of the painting. So I would start with my background, and when I did this painting, I used I've got my little palette here that I use to do this. So I'm using these tubes of paint in this case. Sometimes I use a palette. I forgot my palette. So I used the tubes of paint. But I'm using it, they're all dry, as you can see, so it's just like a palette. But I would start by getting areas wet and going with very light color. It's lighter in the background. It gets darker as it gets closer. And again, that reinforces our whole idea of a landscape here. So one of the things I don't do is I don't start with the trees and the houses. I do the background. I'll come and do the houses. The last things I do, the houses and the trees, and that's because they're the closest to the eye. And that's kind of how you look at a painting like this is you want to put paint on items that are closest to the eye last. That's the last things you want to do in a painting like this. But that's his breath. So again, I wanted to give you kind of a heads up on one of the most famous Mexican painters, Daigo Rivera. He did these lovely landscapes of the Mexican landscape area. And
I have a question.
yes.
What are we gonna do next week? Could we, if we do something with this artist?
Well, this is what we're doing next week. Let's say in 2 weeks is we're doing a sea turtle.
That's next week?
2 weeks.
Oh.
So I haven't finished it, as you can see. It's still, I used pencil and Sharpie. I'm still going to paint it with watercolor. So that's our next project. So thank you. I was going to let people know I would have forgotten that, but I'm going to
Can I
just
show
check
you?
in. I want to see how everybody else is doing here. If you can show me your works. Oh, these are looking great. Very nice, Evelyn. Rogers looks great. Very nice. Johnson's, yeah, Ingrid, yes, I love it. Yeah, I think that we can get carried away with some of our landscapes here because we can keep adding more and more details to them. And like this one, I've done a couple of different times, and every time I do it, I find new things to add to it. So I really appreciate everybody joining me today with this fun project. And I am going to say goodbye, at least I'm going to change my camera so I can say goodbye. Let's see, right here. Can I do it? There I am. I want to say thank you. And next time we're going to be doing a sea turtle. That looks great. Pippa, too close. Farther back, back, back. There we go. Awesome. Yeah, so keep drawing, keep working. If you like these different painters and artists I'm talking about, you can check them out on the website or at the library. Daigo Rivera, he ended up living, he was 70 years old and traveled all over the world. Very interesting man. Anyway, thank you again. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Bye-bye.
Bye.